Hi everyone. Newthany Teeth Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Post Malone album, 12 Carat Toothache. Yes, this is a brand new LP from Austin Richard Post, aka Post Malone, which is billed as his fourth full-length LP, comes several years after 2019's Hollywood's Bleeding. Post's ride creatively up until this point has been an interesting one, with the overnight success that came off of his early viral hits, his debut mixtape and album, which could have easily developed into another tale of some artist's 15 minutes of fame. But Posty came through and hit with even bigger bangers the next time around on his following Beer Bongs and Bentleys, and showed he could effectively straddle the boundaries between trap crooner, pop songwriter, and singer-songwriter. So with his transition into the mainstream limelight going smoother than most, it seemed like he was here to stay. He even felt brave enough to branch out artistically on the following album I mentioned earlier, Hollywood's Bleeding, but the end result was kind of a very unfocused record with a lot of bland and ill-conceived songs on it, and this new LP here, honestly, is making me miss that Beer Bongs and Bentleys era even more. Instrumentally anyway, which I will get into. I will say this off the bat though. 12 Carat Toothache is Post Malone's most lyrically and narratively focused album yet, confessional even, diving into the darker parts of his psyche and personal experience, which previously on tracks he only would merely reference. But there are numerous tracks on this LP here that meditate on death, alcoholism, vices, demons, the excesses of stardom. This is maybe the most tortured and soul-bearing we're ever going to hear Post Malone be on an entire record, because if you dig into the lyrics on this thing, it really does seem like he's going through it. Whether that be on the intro track, Euthanasia, a love-hate letter to alcohol featuring Fleet Foxes, which not only gives us a picture of Post Malone's very toxic relationship with drinking, but also the violent details that led to him having a few of his teeth replaced, having his ass kicked and there being a chrome ring involved. Waiting for a Miracle sees Post Malone contemplating suicide at some points in the lyrics, while Insane sees him kind of talking up his bad boy status, and Cooped Up sees Post singing about those pandemic anxieties building up into a need to get out. The ideas and the topical inspiration on this LP, they are there, but with that being said, this is easily Post's worst record yet from a musical standpoint and a production standpoint, and that's all there is to it. Like, Cooped Up is literally the single for this record, and I can't imagine Post Malone coming up with a blander and more forgettable chorus than he did here. I've heard this song numerous times at this point, and I still cannot recall the hook. There are also numerous tracks on this thing that end so inconsequentially and abruptly. It's rare we're actually getting a cut on this project that is as fleshed out and as well-groomed and as instantly catchy as a track like Better Now, or even Circles for that matter, and I'm not even really a big fan of that song. But yeah, even that track feels more fully fleshed out than a great deal of what we're getting here. This record, I think, is also a kind of significant stylistic switch up for Post too, because Insane is really one of the only tracks on this LP that indulges in the very smoky, dark, kind of atmospheric trap style that he's been writing for years. And instead we get way more tracks on this thing that feel more like just singer-songwriter cuts, sugary pop ballads, which I suppose isn't a surprise because these sounds have always been there in Post's music as an influence. They've been there to a degree, but on this LP they're really taken over, especially with these really saccharine pop tracks with the 1-2-3 combo of Wrapped Around Your Finger, I Like You, I Cannot Be, which are all pretty much packed with these Radio Disney-esque refrains and melodies. Now, granted, there were a few sounds and ideas on this LP that did stand out to me. The passionate vocal performance on the confessional intro track, the heavenly vocal layering with Kid Laroi on Wasting Angels, Doja Cat's very funny guest verse, as well as the chorus of One Right Now, which is about having demons, having one with you, but there's another on the way. Then there's also the slightly country Lemon Tree, which I wish the production kind of reflected this this stylistic shift a bit more tastefully and accurately than kind of just being soaked in reverb and synths and everything, but I do like that Post is nodding toward that genre a little bit more. Given his talents and given his vocal timbre, wouldn't mind him kind of heading further in that direction down the road. But yeah, I also like the turn of phrase on this track about life being sweet for others, and they're growing tangerines. Meanwhile, he's here growing a lemon tree because life is giving him lemons. So these moments are cool, but while they are there in the grander scheme of the LP, they do feel like flashes in the pan, because there's quite a few moments on the LP that are preposterous, whether that be in this lyric where he's singing about being rotten and how he identifies with the bad guy in every film he sees. Every bad guy. There's also the second verse of the song Insane, which he kicks off with the lyrics, second verse. Yeah, some of the lyrics on these songs just feel so literal to what Post Malone is describing. It almost feels a bit silly, even if what he's discussing is very serious. And the closing track of this thing merely being like a phone-recorded demo of a piece of the song Euthanasia, I don't know, it's not really a flattering finish for the record, doesn't really communicate much. But look, with all of these issues being said and cited, really my biggest gripe with the LP is that this is Post Malone's worst sounding album yet. And the issues with this record sound are so consistent that I don't even really need to drill into any individual track to describe them. They're just like from front to back of the record. Because the level of reverb on this record, and mind you, reverb has been a key sonic factor in every Post Malone record so far, every big song, sure, but its use and its levels of use on this record are disgusting and over the top, and to the point where it just ruins the sound of all of these songs. As a listener, I feel like I'm just being waterboarded with reverb on this thing. It makes every vocal and every song, every piece of instrumentation on this record sound so artificial and so fakely smooth. It's like staring at a very, very airbrushed picture, and you're not so much looking at the image or what the image is of, but just like all of the airbrush strokes to kind of figure out just like how fake and just not reflective of reality it is. And again, this is literally every track except the closer here, to some degree. Like, there are even some songs on this thing where the compression and the reverb are so heavy-handed, it's making the mix clip and sound horrendous. The kick drums on Waiting for a Miracle are so compressed and so ridiculous that they're swallowing everything else in the mix. And for whatever reason, Post's vocals on the track Wrapped Around Your Finger sound especially artificial. I feel like I'm not even hearing a recording or a performance. I'm hearing an AI-generated Post Malone. This is what you would get if you fed a computer all of Post Malone's records and hits so far. This is what would be spat out. Even if there are some good sonic and melodic ideas here and there on this LP, there are some focused and impressive lyrical moments on this record as well. They're too few and far between, and the album just sounds awful. It's just an awful sounding record. It doesn't sound good. Even without the reverb, the instrumentals across this thing, frankly, are bland and flavorless. So yeah, I'm just not really enjoying this album much at all. I mean, it's not the worst thing I've heard this year, for sure, but it's so bland, it's so unmemorable, and it's just really lacking any kind of musical or aesthetic punch, which is sad and unfortunate because, at least on the narrative side, on the concept side, it really feels like Post is pouring his heart out and kind of exposing himself in a way that he never has on record. It's just kind of, again, unfortunate that that's not reflected in the music, the production, and the compositional side of the songwriting, honestly. I'm feeling a strong 3 on this LP. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up with a link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Post Malone, 12 Carat Toothache, forever.